I've been doing these videos for you about the 7 biggest remote work challenges and how to overcome them over the last few videos. And I believe this one is number 4 among those remote work challenges in this era post-COVID, if you will, is communication issues and being out of the loop. So before I talk about working too much, prioritizing work, interruptions, loneliness and lack of human interaction. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is number 5, I believe. If it's not, oh well. It's one of the 7. Communication issues and being out of the loop. This writer from Zapier writes, in their book Remote, Office Not Required, Basecamp founders Jason Fried and David Heinemeier explain why communication is paramount for a remote team and why it is such a challenge. He writes, when the bulk of your communication happens via email and the like, it doesn't take much for bad blood to develop unless everyone is making their best effort to the contrary. Small misunderstandings that could have been nipped in the bud with a wink of an eye or a certain tone of voice can quickly snowball into drama. Allow me to share a note regarding that. Faceless, voiceless communication is emails and text, our emails and text, right? And to this point here, you send out a communication, long form or short form, whatever the case may be, and it can be very easily misunderstood because you don't have voice inflection, you don't have a facial expression, body language. All of that plays into the meaning in communication. So, very good point there. Small misunderstandings that could have been nipped in the bud with a wink of an eye or a certain tone of voice can quickly snowball into drama, and then it just gets crazy. Programmer Brian Rebine adds, as somewhat of an introvert, it can be hard to communicate enough with your colleagues. Remote work needs extra communication. The communication issue is compounded if some of your team works in an office but you don't. You miss all the overheard discussions and cubicle wall meetings, says Peter Smith, whoever Peter Smith is. You might feel paranoid that others are having meetings and making decisions without you, and you'd probably be right. Unless the company has built a culture of inclusion for remote workers, you might be out of sight and out of mind. The only real solution is to communicate as much as possible, clarifying anything that could be a misunderstanding, and to be proactive in speaking up. So that's the communications and being out of the loop. Also speaks about time zone differences in this subject of among the 7 biggest remote work challenges. Time zone differences related to or having the feeling of being out of the loop. Those terrible time zones. You might be waking up just when your teammate is going to bed. That means you can't always rely on your fellow team members to be available to answer a pressing question or solve any other immediate need. So what's the solution? Working remotely, you can have a 4-hour overlap. If it is to be successful, usually requires some overlap with the hours of your coworkers that they're putting in. He says, we found that we need a good 4 hours of overlap to avoid collaboration delays and feel like a team. That's not a problem, he writes, if you're in Los Angeles working with someone in New York, but it's more of a challenge if, say, you're in Chicago working with someone in Copenhagen. There was no easy way around it, he writes. We just had to compromise. We did it with Copenhagen working from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. local time, and Chicago working from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Just enough for the key 4 hours of intersection. So there you have it. So if you're working remotely, one of the ways to stay in the loop, remember this challenge of the working remotely series is communication issues and being out of the loop. if there's a vast time zone difference, is having some overlap. So if your office hours, for example, are 9 to 5, and you're in Los Angeles, and New York's office hours are 9 to 5, they're 9 to 5. Not a big deal because there's some overlap. There's only a 4-hour delay. But if you have a 12-hour delay or difference in time zone, then someone needs to adjust their working hours so that where you are and where they are, people that need to be in this communication loop, if you will, are working at the same time. That way you can get on the phone, talk to someone, send a quick email or message and get a response back. That's what that's talking about. And one other issue here is technology hiccups. Technology hiccups. Isn't that the truth? Nothing makes a remote worker shake in fear as much as an internet outage, or perhaps when your computer breaks, when both of you are having problems that need to be solved. Many Wi-Fi hotspots can be also spotty. And even with a decent internet connection, video conferencing apps aren't always reliable. So virtual meetings can be an exercise in frustration. What's the solution? Here's a suggestion for you. We're good. For peace of mind and to avoid delays in your work, have a backup plan. A mobile hotspot device like a MiFi or MiFi, or a cell phone plan that allows tethering can save you when your internet goes out. A backup computer or maybe even a tablet can get you through the day until you can have your computer fixed. There you go. Pretty awesome. And the last among, that may have been number 5 and 6 together. That might have been 6. Whichever one that was. The last I'm going to share with you, this will be the last video regarding the 7 biggest remote work challenges, is bad health habits. This will be pretty short. The writer at Zapier writes, knowledge work tends to be sedentary work. You're sitting around, right? No matter where your office is. However, when you're at home, it's easier to slip into bad habits. For one thing, there's the fridge. I've experienced that. As Cody says, with the refrigerator only 14 steps from my office and my bedroom a mere 22 steps, the freshman 15 is a real phenomenon when converting from an office job. I have no idea what the freshman 15 is. Straight up. This person does. You might Google it. He says, or like me, you might have the opposite problem. Without common lunch breaks, I forget to eat. The bad health habits can be the result also of working remotely. Exercise, he writes, might also fall by the wayside when you're overworking, and you might forget to go outside enough unless you make those little reminders, right? Those little alarms to say, go for a walk. Fellow remote workers, are you getting enough vitamin D from being outside in the sunshine, right? He writes, there's no magic pill for this one either. You just have to be more mindful when working from home about your health habits. You can set reminders for yourself in your calendar or to-do app to eat a salad or do some yoga. Well, I'm about to sneeze here. That's it for the 7 remote work challenges. Hope you got some value from this. I certainly tried to make it beneficial for you. Sometimes I'll find information on the web or in other research mediums, if you will, that are of other experts and people in their chosen fields to help you. That's the purpose of these job tips and straight talk videos. Straight from me to you, unedited, unscripted, no pop-ups, no fancy stuff, just me to you, trying to help you have a more dynamic job or career. Well, if you got value from this, please hit the like button and subscribe. Share this with everybody that you know, all your friends, all your enemies. And make some comments down below what you thought about the video, good, bad, otherwise. And if it's helped you, how has this helped you? How has this given you some insight, or how has this helped you look at things differently, perhaps, in a more beneficial way? And also, if you have issues with work, whatever those issues may be, as far as your work or career, your job path, those sorts of things, share that with us in the comments. And I'll look at those and see if there's some video material that I can provide that'll help you and everybody else who watches this channel. Well, for Job Tips and Straight Talk, I am Greg, and I hope you have the kind of job or career, especially if you're working remotely, that you want to have.